This is AgGrad Live.
We have all of the different segments within the cotton.
The show that explores what it's really like to work in the ag industry.
So making sure that we get policy and regulatory issues
straight from the people who live it every day.
Hello, AgGrads. We're back with another week of AgGrad Live. I have been having so much fun with these lately, bringing on early career professionals in agriculture from all different walks of life that are doing great things in the agriculture industry. Getting some really good feedback from YouTube, from the podcast, and then, of course, those of you who are able to join us live. And so really been enjoying these, and I think tonight is going to be very enjoyable as well. Before we dive into it, though, I want to give another plug for the 30 under 30. If you know anybody in their 20s, whether they're from production agriculture, entrepreneurship, science and technology, agribusiness, advocacy and education, any of the above, somebody in their 20s doing big things in agriculture, I'd love for you to nominate them. It only takes a minute, and it could mean a lot to them. Everyone who gets nominated gets notified that they've been nominated, and it's been really cool to see the amazing talent that's out there and the people who are supporting that talent. So head over to 30under30.ag, and you can just take a minute after this broadcast and nominate somebody in their 20s doing great work. But now to our guest. You didn't come to hear from me. You came to hear from Elizabeth Galbraith. Thank you for being on AgGrad Live.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, you and I think you and I first meet through the AgGrad Snapchat, I want to say?
Yes, I think I took over in 2016 on National Ag Day when I was in DC.
Okay, and at the time you were at Virginia Tech.
Yes.
So let's just get this out in the open right from the beginning. You're a huge Hokie fan. We've got to plug Virginia Tech.
Yeah, go Hokies.
But now you are in the Ag Sales and Marketing Professional Development Program at BASF.
Yes, sir.
So what's that? Tell us about that program.
It is quite a wild ride to go from going to learn in college to going to learn in corporate America. But it's been so enjoyable and so wonderful for me. And I guess I will describe our program most specifically as a rotational development program. And what that means is BASF puts confidence in us to go and do a marketing project here in Research Triangle Park, specifically in Ag Solutions. And we learn more about the overall business, who's making decisions, how they're making decisions. So then we go into a sales rotation for 9 months somewhere in the field. There we're selling crop protection, so pesticides, chemicals, and seed. And then from there, going to apply for a full-time sales role. And it really is up in the air. It's definitely figure it out as you go and trust in the process. But it's a really great understanding as to the full picture of corporate America, agricultural business, and everything that goes through that.
Cool. Now, is it meant to be where, got my name up there. We'll get rid of that. Is it meant to be where you're graduating from college and you like the sales and marketing side of the business, but don't really know exactly where you want to plug in? So you go through the rotation and then you sort of find what you love. Is that right?
Yes, I will say that I'm a person, I'm 23 years old and I still don't know what I'm going to do. And that's why I'm really grateful for this program, because it gives me a little bit of taste of business, of marketing, of everything from research. I really get the full picture. And so it is designed for people to not only understand agribusiness, but really get to understand themselves and where they best see them fitting. And I think the best example of that is just the developmental opportunities, not just saying, here's a project for you to work on, but giving you the chance to go see the industry, whether it's attend Commodity Classic or different developmental conferences and stuff like that. So it's perfect for people who are trying to figure out what they're doing. I am speaking from experience on that one, but I will say that it's a really good opportunity because they teach you how to do everything that they ask you to do, and they're really, really supportive. So I'd encourage anybody, whether it's in crop protection or it's in management and agribusiness or procurement, whatever it may be, to go and participate in these programs.
Yeah, no, it's great. In fact, in my experience, I can speak for me and a lot of other people. You graduate and you don't necessarily know what you want every detail the rest of your life to look like. So if you can get some aspect of professional development, sort of career discovery, but you're kind of going in the general direction you want to go, I mean, I would think that would be ideal. Well, tell us how you landed an opportunity like that, because I think when I was in college, I don't know that I really even was aware that programs like that existed.
Sure. I think the programs have really picked up a lot in the past couple of years as companies have seen the value in really investing in young people. And so I'm really proud of that. When it comes to my story of how I got here, I think I'm a little bit of a specific case, but I think that you'd really appreciate this story. And so will the ag grad world. So I grew up on a small dairy farm in northern Maryland, and my best friend was a cow growing up, and very much loved cows, loved dairy products, the whole 9 yards. And I knew that I loved agriculture, and I was really involved in 4-H. And so growing up, I thought I loved.
Can I stop you right there real
Yeah.
quick? Is it true? Do you have a favorite cow? Didn't you like post on Instagram your favorite cow at some point?
Yes, so I had an almost 15-year-old Holstein dairy cow. Her name was Ethel. Fun fact, y'all are going to laugh at me, but I named her Ethel Elizabeth because when I was 8 years old, I wanted, one, a best friend like Lucy and Ethel after I Love Lucy, and two, I wanted a cow to have my name. So y'all just heard a very embarrassing story about me, so hopefully we can still be friends. But yes, she was very much my favorite cow. She was pretty cool. But yes, the rumors are true, Tim.
Sorry, you go back to the 4-H part now. I had
No.
to make sure that we emphasize Ethel.
Yes, I'm so glad to talk about Ethel all the time. So when I grew up on the farm, like I said, I was very involved in 4-H, and I got the chance to do things with a Dairy Princess Association and the Farm Bureau, and love speaking up for agriculture. So I knew that I said, okay, let's pursue the people side of this. And in college, I studied the leadership, the community development, education side of agriculture. And I went to Virginia Tech, like I said, and really found myself investing in the 4-H and extension side through my major, my department. And then I got involved in AFA, which is Agriculture Future of America. And I'll talk a little bit more, I guess, about that later as to how that got me to where I am. But really gave me the understanding and comprehension of the industry being so big and how my place can be working with people in it, but maybe in a different facet. And I'll be honest with you, I knew that my first job out of school, I knew that I wanted something that would challenge me, but it was really helpful to look for something that they would teach me how to do it, because like I said, not really sure what I'm going to do, but you've never heard somebody say that they regret having sales experience, and that was a big motivator for me. But I also really wanted to go to a place that developed young people, and was engaged. And so BASF was engaged with AFA through a partnership, and that's really what got me here. And the funny story that you'll appreciate is that I was at AFA Leaders Conference in Kansas City last year. So I guess 2017, technically, not 2019 brain yet, but anyway, I was there and I was helping put it on. I was an intern, and I got in the elevator and I looked to my left and I saw a gentleman whose face I recognized from doing the PowerPoints as, an intern. And I looked at him and was like, this guy is the vice president of crop protection at BASF. I applied for a job at BASF. I want to work for BASF. And so I was like, okay, happenstance. So I looked at him, I gave him my elevator pitch, literally in an elevator going to the opportunity fair. So that's why the name happens, y'all. That's real. And so I looked at him and said, hey, I'm interested in your program, would love to hear more about your company. And by the end of the conversation at the opportunity fair downstairs, they booked a flight for me to go to the interview, and 3 days after that, and here I am. So wild ride, but really grateful for all of the steps that led me to where I am, and how BASF kind of landed upon my feet in that elevator, which was pretty cool.
That is very cool. And I'm going to forever you call back upon that story, because there are a lot of people out there who criticize the elevator pitch. They say, oh, it's insincere, it's kind of canned, like here I am. But you might literally be in the elevator or at least only have a couple minutes maybe on the phone with somebody to tell them, here's who I am and here's why you should, consider me. So I think that's such a cool story. You're the first person I know who's literally giving their elevator pitch on the elevator, though. But I do
I'm
think
the first person I've heard of too.
I do think that speaks to a lot of what I've come to believe, which is, the network is so valuable, and being able to put a face with a name as we become more connected online, especially being able to put a physical presence with a name and with a person it can be extremely valuable. I'm not saying that, that's why you got the job. Obviously, you had to have everything to back that up, but that personal connection sure does help. And AFA is great for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk a little bit more then about sales and marketing, because you kind of alluded to this. And in fact, I had this conversation with somebody this week that said, I am an ag communications major. I love advocating for agriculture. And I asked them, I said, well, what about, sales and marketing? Is that something you'd consider? And it really were hesitant to go that route, because it's like, well, I really want to speak on behalf of agriculture, not sell things. How have you sort of reconciled that with what you're doing?
I think it all comes down to people, Tim. And a big reason why I was attracted to ag sales is because I knew that it would teach me how to develop relationships and understand how to listen to people. And when it comes to advocating and industry relations, which are two things that I'd love to do one day, but those are the most important parts of it. It's not about just sharing our story, but it's about listening to what people think of agriculture and how we can connect with them over values. And so that's a huge reason why I'm here. I love talking about agriculture. Heck, I love telling people that brown cows don't make chocolate milk. And I can do that in my personal life all the time. But that what it comes down to is your ability to connect with people in different ways. And so for me, that decision was really, really tough, because you think car salesman, you think, okay, sales is not great. But, it's really about relationships. And I like to think that starting in sales, where they're going to develop you and teach you how to do it and to connect with people, is a great start to wherever you want to go, because you're always going to be working with people. So don't let the stereotypes fool you or scare you off from it, because it is what you make of it, as always, but it's a lot of skills that can help you in advocacy, and you can always pursue that on the side, which is something that I'm trying to do and trying to get better at before I actually pursue that as a career one day.
Cool. No, I think that's great. And I think it's really important. And you do such a good job of advocating, even though, you do have a job and a responsibility to BASF. You've got a blog. I know you do speaking and writing, and you're still involved with AFA. Tell us a little bit more. Actually, hold on. I'm going to tell you here, you've got a little bit of a fan club going on in the comments here. We've got Zach Jacobs that says Elizabeth Galbraith is the coolest advocate you'll ever meet. Got Aaron Harris, go EGAL. And then Morgan Van Dame, yay Elizabeth. So we've got some fan club in the comments, some moral support there. But tell us more about AFA for someone who has never heard of it. And I didn't discover AFA until I was in my 30s. So obviously I did not go as a collegiate. But it's a fantastic opportunity for, especially those of you who are in college. But there's also opportunities beyond college. Can you just tell someone who maybe has never heard of the organization what it's all about?
Sure. I feel like I'm a walking billboard for AFA, so you can stop me at any point, because I just love it so much, and it was so important to me in college and still is. AFA, Agriculture, Future of America, which we lovingly call AFA, is an organization dedicated to building bridges for young leaders in agriculture and food. And what we mean by that is really helping people who want to take the next step in agriculture and have either been identified as leaders or they identify as leaders, and take them that extra step in their personal and their professional development to help them make a difference in agriculture and food. And so that means the idea of helping you create a network like we've talked about here tonight, or that's the idea of doing some sort of developmental opportunity or program, like going through workshops talking about how to accept or negotiate a job offer, how to manage your personal finances, or what it means to have diversity in the workplace. Lots of different opportunities there. And so what it looks like, how they really make this happen, is through different programs and events. And so AFA Leaders Conference is the premier event that happens once a year in Kansas City. And that's about 850 students, I think, at this point, and it's still growing. All college students pursuing agriculture and food careers. And then they have different institutes throughout the year that I call mini conferences that are focused more so on one particular sector of agriculture. So crop science, animal science, whatever it may be. But the important thing to note now at this point in my career and this point in my life is that there's a young professional membership based part of it. So the college part of it is all selection based. So you apply for a particular program and you can get into one program and maybe not the other, but you don't have to commit to everything as a college student. But as a young professional, the membership based part of it is called the Alliance. Very comparable aspects in necessarily the networking piece of it with industry professionals, also with peers, and then in addition to that, the development opportunities too. So those are the biggest parts. And one of my favorite things about AFA is that it's meeting people where they're at. And so it's lots of different programming to help students get to the next level, but they identify where you're at in order to help you get there, and don't just assume that everybody has this great understanding of the full industry or they all particularly know everything about personal assessments or whatever. So it's been a huge part of my college career. Like I said, walking billboard for it, love it. Had the chance to intern with them as well. So it's exceptional. If you have the chance, selfish plug, agfuture.org. Definitely would check it out. Big fan of everybody there and the work that they do.
All right, I'm going to throw that up there as well, that URL. Cool. I mean, I think, you know, I've seen it from the other side of the table, getting to go to the Leaders Conference and see the caliber of people that come through there. I've been blown away both times that I have been. So very, very cool stuff there. You have a good perspective, I think, because you started with BASF a little under a year ago. What do you wish you kind of had known before you set out into this career? What do you wish you would have known? What's been the biggest surprises for you so far?
I am so glad that you asked this question. I've been thinking about this, and I did some reflecting on things that I wish I knew as a senior in college, as I went to recruit at Virginia Tech and AFA Leaders Conference. And you will probably be a little surprised by this, and I think some people listening might be too. But what it comes down to is your career and your work is also life. So enjoy it and don't take yourself too seriously. And I'm a person that has really high expectations for myself, and I'm really independent, and it's all almost to a fault at times. And so I think, okay, let's prove myself or let's get to the next step or whatever it may be, not necessarily just to get ahead, but I really just expect a lot of myself and have really high standards. So I'm like, let's do well with this, right? I want to be proud of the work that I do. But sometimes it's easy to get lost in that and to think, oh, this is daunting or this is stressful and overwhelming. But I've been so blessed and so fortunate to be on a team here at our Research Triangle Park in Raleigh, North Carolina site that they love to live and laugh. And so in the stressful times, they bring up some funny jokes, or we break the silence or the hard times and just laugh, because work is life too, and you should enjoy parts of it. And you really should enjoy the people that you're with. I think that's a big contribution to it. Not to say that you'll enjoy every moment of work. I know that jobs are always tough, but enjoy it. Work is life too. Smile, have fun, take it easy. Remember that it's okay to have fun.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and it's a marathon. You know, I mean, a career is decades long, most likely. So I remember when I started in grade merchandising, and they told me, yeah, you know, it takes maybe 3 years for somebody to really understand what they're doing and really generate revenue as a merchandiser. I thought, okay, well, I can, you know, of course, accelerate that down to like 3 months, right? So I just work really hard, and not only is that not possible because you have to be put in a million different situations to actually know what you're doing, but also it's a good path to burnout too, because 3 months in, if I'm not where I think I should be, then I think, oh, well, maybe I'm just not cut out for this, and you know, I want to go do something else. And so I think having that patience and being able to enjoy what you're doing is really, really good advice. So far, what's your favorite part of your job, and what's the hardest part of what you're doing?
Ooh. Wow, double whammy there.
Okay,
My favorite
you
part
can pick one or the other.
Okay, I'll start. Well, I will say the favorite part of my job really just came down to what I just mentioned. I think the people that I work with here are so welcoming and so willing to share information and sit down and teach me, even if it's at the cost of their time. And I am really, I ask too many questions. So I love to make sure that I understand something before I do it. And my managers have been so patient with me, and it has been such a really really enjoyable experience because of that. And going with that, BASF engages really well with the community, whether it's AFA, Manners, FFA. We partner with a lot of different organizations that mean a lot to me and causes I care about. So going to AFA Leaders Conference or whatever it may be has been really enjoyable. But the hardest part, if you want me to answer it, is something that's really big that I'd encourage a lot of people to pursue, is the willingness to kind of trust the process and say, like you were talking about, you want to accelerate and you want to be 3 months done, right? But for us, we're in an 18-month rotational program, and 9 of those months we know where we're going to be, and 9 of those months we don't. And then after that, we don't know where we're going to be. So the idea of being willing and open to accept all that comes has been really hard, and I have not been perfect at it, but it's something that teaches me more than most other parts of my job.
Very cool. Very cool. We got some more positivity coming from the comments here. Ryan Allen says Elizabeth is the best. Let's see. Shannon Douglas says, saying hello to AgGrad. Let me throw this up here. AgGrad and Elizabeth. I have the great fortune to work with Elizabeth and be inspired by her every day. Signed, Kurt. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's great, everybody. And if you all have any comments for Elizabeth, she can't run. This is live. So leave them in the comments, and I'll try to pull them up there. But I want to talk more about what you just said, which is you took a job that you knew at least half of the time in the first 18 months, you had no idea where you were going to be located. So how was that, and how have you balanced that with like some semblance of a personal life?
I would say that, especially being from a hometown, with the idea of coming back to my family's farm, always being up in the air and going to school out of state. So there's always been some independence in my life, but it was a choice of extreme independence to say, I'm going to move away and not really know what's next. The process was really hard, but I said, I'm going to do it, and I can't do what ifs, and I can't look back. And for me, the decision really came down to, I'm young and I can do this now. And that's a cliche answer, but I'm young, I can do this now. And I can really take advantage of going in all the directions if I want to. The important part for me to know is that every experience is a learning experience if you want it to be. So I lived in a couple of different places with my internships, but I think the idea of being somewhere for 9 months and seeing what the town's all about is different. But yeah, I think it's important to always make time for your personal life and to get involved in some sort of community, or to travel a little bit to stay connected to people that you want to, whether that's going home or going on vacations or going on trips. Life is so much more connected, obviously, than it used to be. So it's pretty easy to stay in touch with people from further away, but it was a commitment, and I'm not looking back, and I'm moving in 3 weeks.
and so now you know where you're moving.
Yes, for my next rotation will be in Richmond, Virginia. So I can say go Hokies to my customers, and they won't be absurdly mad.
That is what's top of mind, of course.
Yeah.
All right, you got an amen out of Ryan. I'm not sure if that was for the Hokies or for the relocating part. Let's see. I'm not sure. Is this Colin or Kaylin? Chief Kaylin. All right, Elizabeth Galbraith is an ag inspiration. New hashtag there. And Jonna Wallingford says, thanks for all of the kind AFA words. We appreciate you both participating in our programs. Cool. Well, thanks for being on here live, John. Appreciate it. All right. Well, let's wrap up here with, you are at a point that I think a lot of other ag grads are at, which is, you're starting your career. Things are starting to become maybe more clear on the impact you want to have professionally. What sort of parting words of advice would you leave to other young professionals trying to make their mark in agriculture?
I think what's been really important for me is to, and this sounds so cliche, but I couldn't mean this more, is do not let other people dictate what you do, whether that's what your family expects of you to do, or what your major, your department professors think that you should do, or what you think society says. And so I'll tell you now that this ag sales job for me seemed out of left field for a lot of people. And they were like, what are you doing? I thought you were going to do 4-H or something like that. And I knew what was best for me in my development long-term. And so I would say, do what feels right to you, and know that things will not be just a straight vertical jump to where you're going to go next. And the important thing is to know that you're taking on roles that really develop you and challenge you. And with that in mind, know that you probably won't know a lot about the next job that you're going to do, but run with it. So fake it till you make it. But I think the really, really big thing I would also say, it kind of what I just mentioned, is I make decisions, and you can laugh at me if you want to, but I make decisions based on what would an 80-year-old Elizabeth sitting on a rocking chair on her front porch say. Would she regret that she didn't do something? Would she regret that she did? Or would she be proud of that? And it came down for me for my decision, that I knew that I would regret not taking a jump and trying something new, because I can always come back to the things that I know and I love, but there's no better opportunity to jump on it when you're young and you have the choices that you do. So I would say, really don't be afraid to take that jump, but no, you've really got to think long term. Something may seem really awesome to you and be everything that you want it to be, but make sure that you're thinking of yourself, what would you regret that you did not do, or be proud that you did? That's been really, really guiding advice for me.
Oh, I love that, and I think a lot of people need to hear that, because it's hard, especially when you're starting off, to trust your gut, because you're kind of like, oh, I don't know what I don't know. Maybe my gut is wrong, and I think if you're prioritizing your own growth and development, just like you said, and thinking long term to what does this look like when I'm looking back on it years later, it's going to be hard to go wrong. So I think that's fantastic, and I have to say I am loving the comments. So those of you on live tonight, thank you so much. A couple more that I'll throw up. Michael Calkins says, wow, it's nice to hear from Elizabeth and her experiences after being, sorry, I'm throwing too many windows up. Her experiences after being a Farm Bureau Miss in Maryland. You didn't even mention that.
That was a Farm Bureau ambassador type role back my first year of college, I think.
Cool.
But thanks, Michael.
Yeah. And then Catherine Umbarger-Dallum says, it's young women like Elizabeth that are making a huge impact on the future of ag. So very, very cool. Thank you all for tuning in live. And Elizabeth, I can't thank you enough. If somebody wants to follow up with you, either they're watching this live, they watch it on YouTube, they watch it on the podcast, and they think this girl just sounds like my people, I want to reach out to her. What's a good way they can do that?
Yeah, so you could find me on social media. I'd love to connect with you there. My Facebook and my Instagram, Elizabeth Galbraith. And I've got a blog, elizagalbraith.wordpress.com. I think that's the URL. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's a WordPress site, Eliza Galbraith. So if you'd love to connect with me there, there's a chance that you can send me an email through that, through the speaker part of that website. But I'd love to connect with you on social media. And happy to talk about BASF, AFA, any career advice. I have had so many mentors that have guided me. I don't mean I have had so many mentors. I've had really impactful mentors along the way that have guided me to where I am, and I appreciate all the moral support from them.
Okay, well, in case I got the URL wrong, maybe you could leave it in the comments of the video. Oh, does it? Okay, well, hopefully that's right. If not, maybe you could leave it in the comments. Reach out to Elizabeth. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being on the show. If you are listening on a podcast to AgGrad Live, make sure you rate and review, because I always forget to say that. And we will be back next week. Actually, I think I'll be live from NCBA in New Orleans next week. So we'll be back live from there next week. And Elizabeth, thank you so much again.
Hey, thanks for having me, and thanks for all the hype, y'all.
Thank you for joining AgGrad Live. Visit aggrad.com, that's AGGRAD, to join the community, create your profile, and learn more about careers in the agriculture industry.